Soloway. In this video we're going to learn about third declension neuter nouns. We've already learned about third declension masculine and feminine, and these will only be slightly different from those. First, let's take a look back at second declension neuter. That includes words such as kailum, kaili, which means sky. For these nouns, the nominative singular always ends in a um, and the genitive singular always ends with an I. If you see those endings, you know you're dealing with something that's second declension neuter. Okay, now for third declension neuter nouns have a variable ending in the nominative singular. The third declension masculine and feminine nouns that we already learned about did this as well, so this shouldn't be a shock. The genitive singular will end with is, which is the same ending that we saw for masculine and feminine nouns as well. In the previous video, we learned that the nominative singular form is variable, but there are some common endings, and we'll see that same pattern repeated here. One of the most common endings for neuter nouns is us, as in the noun corpus corporis, which means body, or the word onus oneris, which means load or burden. Also very common for third declension neuter is en, as in the noun nomen nominis, which means name, or lumen luminis, which means light. Somewhat less common as a neuter ending is er, as in the word iter itineris, which is a neuter noun that means journey, or cadaver cadaveris, which means corpse or dead body. Some third declension neuter nouns will end with an e, as in mare maris, which means sea. We get the word marine from this. Animal animalis has an al ending, which is not overly common, but does happen sometimes. This word is a cognate and simply means animal. Some of these will end with ar, such as exemplar exemplaris, which means copy. And some of these nouns have fairly random endings that don't show up much at all, such as cor cordis, which means heart, caput capitis, which means head, and lac lactis, which means milk. Okay, now let's see the rest of the neuter endings. For the nominative, we have the variable, as we've already discussed. The genitive is is, as we already discussed previously. For the dative, we'll have I, which is the same as we had in the masculine and feminine forms. The accusative will be the variable again. It just repeats the nominative, so whatever we have up here, we're going to repeat down here in the accusative singular. The ablative is e, just like it was for the masculine and feminine forms, and that's it for the singulars. In the plural, we'll have a, ibus, a, and ibus. So if we examine this, we can see that these are the same as the masculine and feminine forms with three exceptions. The accusative singular copies the nominative singular, and the nominative and the accusative plural both end with an a. Second declension neuter nouns also had an a in those endings, so there is a precedent for this. Now, let's add these endings to a noun. We'll use the word carmen, carminis, which means song. As always, we'll take the genitive singular, drop the ending, and that gives us the stem, carmin. We'll add the other endings to that, and we get carmini, then carmen, because it repeats the nominative, then carmine, carmina, carminum, carminibus, carmina, and carminibus. All right, now another noun. Tempus temporis means time. For the dative, we'll get tempori, then tempus, copied from the nominative, then tempore. In the plural, we have tempora, temporum, temporibus, tempora, and temporibus. Now let's get back to noun and adjective agreement. As we discussed in the last video, nouns and adjectives need to agree in case, number, and gender, but not necessarily declension or ending. So let's use the noun crus, which is a third declension neuter noun that means leg. We can certainly have a second declension neuter adjective describing this third declension neuter noun. So let's add the adjective meum, which means my. So together these two words mean my leg. Here, both forms are nominative, singular, and neuter. So they agree with each other even though they aren't the same declension. All right, now let's see all of the forms of these two words. The genitive is cruris, so we get cruris mei. The dative is cruri meo. The accusative will repeat the nominative, so crus meum. Then crure meo, crura mea, crurum meorum, cruribus meis, crura mea, and cruribus meis. So we have a third declension neuter noun described by a second declension neuter adjective, and in all of these instances the two words agree with each other. Okay, that's it for third declension neuter. Let me know if you have any questions. Vale.